Hello and welcome to the Car Care Nut live stream. How you guys doing today? I feel like it's been a long time I haven't talked to you guys and haven't seen you, well, other than the videos, but the live stream. Hope everybody's doing well. This week has been a very interesting week. Actually, right in front of me is a Lexus that is sitting, and I made the announcement. I told you guys we're going to start Lexus content in addition to Toyota, and eventually at some point we're going to add specific Scion content as well. Starting out with some light stuff, just kind of general introduction to the Lexus stuff, and then we'll dive in deeper as I get more cars and more content for Lexus specific. A lot of you were asking for it, and it's here. So, having said that, guys, let's dig right in. So, Matfee says, "Hi AMD, how do I clean a contaminated engine on a neglected used car? I took off the valve cover and it has a lot of gunk and sludge. Are engine flushes safe?" Yes, actually that's your only route here. Do an engine flush, one of those that you add it, run the engine for half hour, shut it off, do an oil change, and then follow it up by like 3-4 oil changes at literally 500 miles to 1,000 mile intervals, just to clean everything out. Repeat that for finish those quick oil changes, and then drive it in 6 months, 5,000 miles, do another engine flush, and then drive it again on the following oil change, take the valve cover out again and see if it's getting better. Fortunately, you can't really clean it 100%, but you're going to clean it as much as possible and get the best results. Jose Burgos, I have a 2007 RAV4 V6, 156,000 miles. I can hear BBTI rattle when I start the vehicle, but it only does it when the vehicle is warmed up and sits for 30 to 140 minutes. Never does it when it's cold. That is actually interesting. It usually does it when it sits overnight, but it could be because the oil is thicker when it's cold. And if it's really cold outside, then it's gonna kind of stay in the gear and not drain down. But honestly, the only thing with these is the gears need to be replaced. There's nothing around it. If it's not a very loud rattle and it's not happening very often, then you have some time. Eventually, it's going to get to a point where every time you start the engine, it just rattle away, and that's when I would take care of it. But that could be a long time. So kind of play it by ear and don't rush into fixing it, because this is not a cheap fix. But keep a ear on it, not an eye on it. If it gets really loud in every single start, then you need to take care of it, unfortunately. So Brian Hildebrand, sorry if I misread that. 2005 Sienna, 225,000 miles. What would cause all engine warning lights to come on but not affect the drivability of it? Resets by restarting the engine and leaves no codes to be found. So you're going to want to check the codes when the lights are actually on. Now, you didn't specify which lights you have on, but you sometimes some of these older ones, the codes will set, and if you cycle the key, it'll go out. So you're going to want to, when the lights are actually on, do not turn off the key, just plug in a scan tool and see what codes you have. Usually this happens with ABS, not really check engine light, but even though you're saying it leaves no codes to find, depends on the light. If you have an ABS light and an airbag light, you're going to want to check them while the light is on, because some of those don't actually leave history codes, especially the old ones. Newer ones are getting better about that, but the old ones, they don't. EMA 2017 RAV4 Hybrid 2020 has noise rattle around dash area or just right to the side of it. Happens at low speeds with road bumps and gravel. So this is going to need diagnosis. So what you're going to want to do before, I can imagine this might have warranty still if it's under 3 years, but 36,000 miles. Kind of push on the dash on the area that is making a noise. If you find a panel that you push down and it stops the noise, that's the source of the noise. Basically, what the dealership will do, or even you could do, pull that panel out, try to insulate it, put it back until it quiets down. Nothing serious, nothing I would be too concerned about where it's something going to break or fall apart. It's just an annoyance. David F, 2017 4Runner. Why is that the rear brake flush, I can turn on the engine and hold down the brake and the system pushes the fluids through, but for the front, I have to do it the old-fashioned way. By old-fashioned way, you mean someone push hold the brake pedal while. So the 4Runner has a hydraulic brakes, or actually hydraulic boost, but they actually similar to the hybrids where the rear brakes are not applied directly. It uses a hydraulic pressure generated in the accumulator to push those rear brakes. I actually don't recommend you use the way to turn on the engine and push the brake pedal, let it push out, because that's actually not good for the hydraulic unit unless you're bleeding the hydraulic unit itself. Use the old fashioned, just use a vacuum bleeder or pressure bleeder and bleed them normally. Uh, this works better. It's safer because every time you use that method, it's actually could trigger codes because it sees that the pressure is kind of coming down rapidly and it doesn't like it. It could throw codes, and now you need a scan tool that can erase these codes, and you could actually introduce air if you're not careful. It's just not a very safe method. I don't want to say it's unsafe, but it you need to be aware of the precautions with that. DDK80, any chance you could do a video on safe places to put the car on 4 jack stands other than the pinch welds? I can, and this is something that is on the list. It's coming up there. I just need to find a good candidate car to do this. Seems like every car I have, we have so many video topics and very little time to do them. This video keeps getting pushed back, but I want to do that video because there are a few spots, few things that you need to know when lifting unibody cars and trucks on jack stands other than the pinch weld. Well, body and frame trucks, you should not lift them by the pinch weld. So Jose Burgos, any thoughts on 2GR FSE on the Lexus side, 306 horsepower? Well, they are exactly the same. They just have different tuning. That's why they take premium fuel, make a few more horsepower. Not really something significant, but they're very good. They're very similar to your regular 2GR. They don't have much different. The 4GR, you do want to avoid that one. I'll talk about that. Folks, this is all going to come up in the Lexus content. Which cars I recommend, which ones are disasters, the general outline of Lexus, who should buy a Lexus, should you buy a Lexus. All these videos are coming up and they're already filmed and ready to go. So you'll see those very, very soon. Charlie Jones, I'm interested in buying 2018 Platinum Tundra. Do you think I should buy now or wait? Honestly, if you don't absolutely have to, this is a general recommendation. This is not the best time to buy cars because they're all overpriced and overinflated because of the shortage. If you absolutely have to and you find one, if you absolutely have to, you have no choice, unfortunately, but try to minimize the damage financially by not overpaying too much. But if you don't have to, but you happen to stumble across a very good deal, I would go for it because if you find a good deal in these times, that's a pretty good deal. So I would go for it. Otherwise, wait until this whole craziness passes. People say, "Oh, these are out of production." You always find them. Just that's 18 is used already, unless you're buying a 21, which is not going to be made anymore. That's a different story. But I wouldn't rush. Javier Reyes, how are you? Hi, how are you doing? I'm fine, thank you. Tacoma 2020, I take a couple times because I hear engine noise. They say it's direct injection. I want to know. Yes, Javier, I made a series on the Tacoma and we talked about why the engine is loud, but it is completely normal. I know it sounds exactly like a diesel. That's just how direct injection sound. There's a pump, a high pressure fuel pump that sits on the valve cover. That's noisy, and the injectors themselves are very noisy. So there's nothing to worry about. This is completely normal. I hope this puts you at ease. I understand the old Tacoma was quiet, but it doesn't make the new one broken or it's gonna explode or something. That's just the way they are. They're loud. So I'm going to say this, fly on Bia. There should be no debate as to frequency for oil change of 5,000 or 6,000 miles. Oil's cheap, engine failures are not. That's absolutely true, folks. And everybody can do whatever they want, but the recommendation is stick with the 5,000 miles, 6 months, and don't kind of go into this rabbit hole of, well, do I have extensive idling? Is this special operating condition? And that question, why question it? Oil is not expensive, especially if you're keeping your car long. This is the best thing you can do to it long term. Robert Janis, less than 2 months old, 2021 Venza, multi display started freezing and blank screen, numerous BCM communication failures. Dealer indicates ICU needs replacement. Will parts be hard to get? Honestly, I recently had a Sienna, not a Sienna, sorry, a Venza. It's been an accident. It has multiple. It's actually still sitting at the dealership right now. Um, they're going to want to look at this closely because some of these parts might not be as available, but uh, I don't think. See, this is where this is kind of the weird part. Certain cars that are very much in production right now, you might find odd parts for them. That's considered an odd part. You don't have a tire or a wheel or body parts. These are parts that are being consumed right now as cars get in an accident. But a body ECU, then you might actually be available. So honestly, I wouldn't be able to tell you exactly, but I would check with parts and have them go through the whole process. So fly on Bia. What's the basic procedure to change stabilizer bushings on my 2007 Yaris? Not the end links, the chassis mounted bushings. So the front subframe will have to be dropped a little bit. If this is a rusty car, be careful because the bolts are notorious to break. You're going to want to drop the subframe a little bit without disconnecting everything. Just drop it a little bit, get to the bolts. They're a little harder to get. But if it's rusty, the bolts that hold the subframe are notorious to snap and break. So be careful with those. Don Y. Any potential long-term problems with KDSs in the fifth generation Forerunner? Any preventative measures? Looking KDSs can be expensive to repair. So honestly, we don't actually see a lot of problems with the KDSs at the dealership level. Occasionally, you're going to have one that is leaking, but very occasionally is the word I'm going to use. Most of them, you're not really going to see them. Honestly, KDSs is kind of becoming rare in the Forerunners. I don't know why people don't like it, but actually there is a legit reason why people don't like it. Modifying a KDSs truck is a lot more cumbersome than modifying a non-KDSs truck. Usually I recommend people, if for the KDSs, when they ask, buy the KDSs if you don't plan ever to upgrade or update or kind of modify your suspension on the Forerunner. But if you're gonna modify, don't get it. If you are not gonna modify, then get it. And they're not really problematic. I wouldn't say so. They can get expensive, but if you're replacing the whole thing, which is very rare, um, but I wouldn't worry about it honestly. They haven't been a lot of problems lately. East Lee added 5 ounce of windshield washer to the 2G RFKS. Didn't start the engine. Drove 2 minutes. 2 miles, did another oil change filter. No, you're good. I look, a small amount of washer fluid. I understand it sounds scary, but it's gonna make its way down. It's gonna wet a few things. Um, Eventually, it's gonna come out. I mean, most of these engines will have some moisture inside of them build up. Sometimes you see it on the cap. It's not a big issue. You change the oil right away. You did another oil change. You're good. I wouldn't worry about it too much. All right. Let's see. Robert Robert Janus. Okay, sorry, we already did this one. We already did this one. Here we go. Shadrach Morgeson, 2006 Toyota Taz. When starting from cold, vehicle makes a buzzing or sound like something is touching. Once the car warms up, the noise goes away as a problem. Well, first, I'm not very familiar with that model. It could be something that is named differently overseas, but um, any rattle or buzzing, you're gonna find. First thing is exhaust shields. Exhaust rattles a little bit, especially when the RPM is higher. It'll rattle a little bit more when it's cold. When it warms up, it's a little smoother. So that's the first thing I would look at. You're gonna want to differentiate: is this a panel dash rattle or is it an exhaust outside rattle? And then go from there. Javier, do you recommend OEM spark plugs come pre-gapped? Also, how often should you replace the PCV valve? Also, could you make a video on how to do a Toyota multi-point inspection? So Javier and everybody else, when it comes to spark plugs, all OEM spark plugs are pre-gapped for the specific model they go into. On iridium spark plugs, you should not never change the gap because you could actually damage the tip. If you have a spark plug that comes out of the box that does not have the right gap, it's considered damaged and you need to replace it. That's a general outline. You should not change the gap on these. And the other thing is on the PCV valve, folks, if the engine does not burn oil and you've had good oil change history, it's not been neglected, you're not going to have issues with the PCV valve. But as a recommendation, replace it every time you replace the spark plugs. Don't overspend. Some of these models are getting a little bit complicated with the PCV valves. Don't overspend on the PCV valve is what I will recommend to you, because if you don't have issues, it's not something that wears out, or it could get clogged, but most of them really that get replaced, they're not clogged. That's the God honest truth here. Real freedom. We have a 2013 Prius. Are there, sorry, going back to Javier on the multiple inspection, I forgot that part. I am planning a video on how certified cars are getting inspected. I just got to make time to really film it because I'm filming it not here. So I am planning to do that. You're going to know how certified cars are inspected, and that will give you kind of an outline on how to inspect used cars when you go check them. Real freedom. We have a 2013 Prius. Are there loop points on the car? I ask. I hear squeaking noise from time to time. So there are no real loop areas. There's no Zerk fitting anywhere or anything. Squeaks. Check your sway bar links. You know it's you're gonna want to find exactly where the front, back, outside, inside, that kind of stuff. But as far as lubrication, no, there's no fittings or anything on the 2013 Prius. Kasoon Miga, I'm sorry, I will probably read that wrong, so I'll just answer your question. Can you please tell me what are parts of the Forerunner TRD Pros added here in the US? Wheels, tires, shocks, anything? Nothing is added to the Forerunner in the US except accessories. If you buy them, these are added at the dealership level, but the Forerunner comes exactly as you see it, comes from Japan, everything's put on. Now, does it have parts made in the USA? Absolutely, because Fox Shocks is an American company. Now, not necessarily made in the US, but made elsewhere, yes. There's a lot of parts of the Forerunner that are not made in Japan. But as far as wheels, tires, shocks, anything like that, it all comes as is from the factory in Japan. However, if you add accessories, you know, you have an SR5, you wanted to put TRD wheels on it, and you added it as part of the deal. The car didn't come as equipped. That's added at the dealership level. You know, body side moldings, other accessories that are basically installed at the dealer level, those get added usually either at the port or at the dealership. Jake Duncan, are there any skid plates Toyota makes? Also protects my catalytic converter from thieves. 2021 Tacoma. So as Toyota does not make any protection for any car, it's actually aftermarket companies. There's one company, Cat Shield or something. Um, Actually, I am in contact with them. They're trying to do their Tundra shield, and I told them I'd be more than happy to demonstrate it for everybody and check it out, because Tundras are becoming really bad for catalytic converter theft. Tacoma, not as much. Maybe we've had one, but they were mentioned that they were working on a Tacoma one. So that would be one company that I see all the time. Probably there are other companies that are as good, but this is one company that I see all the time. Colorado, boo! I cut my after church nap short for this, but I don't mind. Well, thank you, brother. Thank you so much for. I actually came running from church here because my church starts at 1, ends like 2:30 until you mingle with people, talk. So I came running here to do the live stream. This week has been very interesting, and the reason we don't have a live stream yesterday is I had a wedding to attend. A friend of my mom's wedding. They've known each other for, not her wedding, her daughter's wedding, but we had to go, and the wedding starts at 7 p.m. So it's like either do the live stream earlier or doing it on a Sunday. But then I was filming with the Lexus, and it's like, you know what? Let's just do it Sunday. Young One E80, can you do a show how to change the alternator for a 2012 Highlander? Yes, I would love to. It's kind of a cumbersome thing, especially on the V6. But I do need a volunteer car, folks. I always say this: if you have a car, you're around the Chicago area and you want to work on, or you want to volunteer your car for a video for a job you're doing, or whatever the case may be, just email me with the subject title. On the subject line, put Chicago service request, and that goes somewhere else. Mrs. Car Care Net flags it, and I see it, and we go from there. Alex, what's the best Toyota V8 in your opinion ever made in your technical experience? That's the easiest thing and one that immediately comes to mind. 2UZ FE. That engine really doesn't have much issues. This is a 4.7 liter V8. It's bulletproof, for lack of a better word. I mean, maybe when it has 200,000 miles and it's 15, 20 years old, it'll have a valve cover leak. Maybe that's pushing it. And maybe, it has a timing belt, an old school engine, terrible gas mileage and whatnot. But as far as reliability, that's probably the king or the best. Very easy to work on, super simple, and you're not really going to work on it much. Second one would be, well, that's the only V8 they have, is the UR series engine. So the 4.6, 5.7. These are phenomenal engines as well. They do have their things, few issues, a little bit more than the 2UZ. That's why I put it first, but definitely the 2UZ hands down. Chris Fostick, 2021 RAV4 XSE hybrid can fill up the tank to full line. So this should not have the issues that were common with this generation when they first came out. Doesn't hurt to do it, but try this before you take it to the dealership. So set your odometer on showing the whole total mileage of the car, not trip A, not trip B. Shut off the car, foot off the brake, press and hold the odometer reset button, and then if you have a start button, press the start button twice without pressing your brake pedal. That just turns the key on. All the lights will come on. Continue to hold that. You'll see the odometer flash a few times. If I remember, it'll flash and then it'll come back on. When what that does in the newer models, and by the way, for everybody else, that resets the gas gauge reading. See if that does it. Do that after you filled it up and it's not showing full. And if that doesn't fix it, then you need to take it to the dealership and they need to take a look. Could be a fuel sender, could be something else that will need some diagnosis. But that's how you reset that fuel gauge, recalibrate it, if you would. Peter Y. I just got my RAV4 Prime 3 weeks ago and I want to install a camera front and back. He wants to tap into the rear camera and hardwire the unit to the fuse block. Is this a bad thing to do? It is not, but it just needs to be a clean install. No exposed wires, no bud connectors, and all this mess. Just clean install. If this is an installer that takes pride in their work, they're going to do a clean install, and they're doing it right by running the wires to the fuse block. There shouldn't be any issues. Craig Danielski, thank you so much for your generosity, sir. Let's see here. Dennis Flynn, I have a 2008 Scion XB. Digital speedometer drops to 0 and I lose power over rough roads. Then it returns to normal after several seconds. Someone said to look for a loose ground. Where do I start? Well, it could be a loose ground, and this one is going to be interesting because do you have any codes? You're going to actually want to look for codes, communication codes mainly, because something is dropping communication, and that's how you're losing it. Ground, you're going to follow the battery negative terminal. It's going to ground somewhere, usually in the body. And then there's going to be another ground from the body to the transmission, maybe on the other side. I'm trying to remember here by memory. I don't exactly can remember where the grounds are, but there's definitely one from the negative terminal somewhere to the body, and there's one to the transmission, and there should be another one on the engine on the other side. These are the first grounds I would check. And then do your what we call a wiggle test. So start the car and you're saying that it loses power. Shake all the wires, tap on everything. Kind of try to duplicate that going over bumps. If you shake a wire harness and it goes out, then that's the first area I would look into. Jack Brown, delete muffler on a Camry because my engine runs leaner. Shouldn't. Muffler doesn't really affect the how the engine run. If you catalytic converter, maybe, but not the muffler. Daniel, is there any part on Toyota suspension that needs to be greased for maintenance? Not on the suspension. If you find a grease fitting on a Toyota suspension, it's aftermarket. OEM ones do not. The only thing is the drive shaft on some of the trucks will need to be greased, and that's about it. Kevin Paul, I have a 2018 Camry LE. Should I restart the transmission? It was a pre-owned certified, or just leave it as it is. I love the way how it drives. Well, if you're happy with the way it drives, I would leave it alone. There's no need to restart, reset anything. If it's giving you issues, then reset it and see if that takes care of them. Lawrence Garrett, can you tell me what you think of these OB2 Blue Driver Bluetooth for DIY? I own a Toyota RAV4 hybrid and I live in the UK. So the Blue Driver works really good. It does have some stuff that it's missing, but at its price point, it's very good. Carista is another one that is also good. Does different things, but you want to depends on what you want from the scan tool. If you want data or you want customization, or both of them will read all codes pretty much, but one of them does better. Carista does better with customizations. Blue Driver does better with data, but not completely comprehensive. It's still missing some data, but at its price point, it's actually very good. If you want to take it up a notch, X Tool makes really a good tool. I did a review on that. The D7, it's very capable. You're talking into the professional grade capabilities. Not everything, but enough to make it really worth its price point. But most DIYs will really, especially if you're just starting DIY, you're not going to want to get into the professional scan tool where it's going to be super complicated and confusing to use. You just want to check codes. So Blue Driver will do that just fine. Justin, do you recommend the RAV4 Prime? Folks, I think I was actually just looking at a RAV4 Prime this I think this is a record. We had two RAV4 Primes come in the same day. One of them for maintenance, and one of them is a new car being sold. But do I recommend the RAV4 Prime? Yes, if you will be using it to its 100% potential, if you will be utilizing the electric charge that it has, electric range, if you will be actually making sense of it financially. Because I've had so many folks actually ask me, hey, is it a problem if I buy a RAV4 Prime and not charge it and just use it as a hybrid? There's no problem with that. But why are you wasting your money at that point? Just buy a regular hybrid, because honestly, hybrids are a lot more available than the Prime. Primes are very hard to get. They were hard to get before this, and now it's even worse. But if you're not going to utilize the RAV4 Prime to what it's made, which is mainly the EV range, it's pointless. Just buy a hybrid. Other than the EV range part, it's exactly the same. It's the same as a RAV4. Maybe it has a few extra options, but nothing really out of the world. It's a RAV4 nonetheless. Jim Harris, what's the range of the cost to replace a flex pipe in 2007 Toyota Camry Midwest region? So the front pipes from Toyota are very expensive. They're probably 1,000 plus just for the part, but it's not just the flex pipe. Sorry, this is going to be the whole pipe. Basically, it's called the front pipe. Your best bet, if this is an original one that you have that is leaking, go to a muffler shop. They're going to replace. They're going to basically cut and weld in a flex pipe. It's not going to be pretty. It's probably not going to last 10 years. It's at best, it'll probably last 3 years and it start leaking again. They might be able to do this one more time, but then you're going to have to replace the pipe. Pipe, there's aftermarket. There's original, very expensive, lasts probably 10 years. Aftermarket, it's okay, but it doesn't fit 100%. But again, it's 1/3 the price. So, these are the options you have in this case. David Reeder, hi, can I use 10W30 on a 2006 Avalon in the summer as opposed to 5W30? You can, but I just want to say that you're not really going to gain much. I would just stick with 530, but that's up to you, but you can. Brian Harazo, 2011 Avalon. What do you think overall? Bought used, 108,000 miles. Now at 113. Not sure if the ATF was never. Should I do it now? Honestly, this is borderline on the transmission. Let's talk about the transmission first. If anything, I would do a single drain and fill and call it a day if you're absolutely not sure if it's been done. Overall, the Avalon is very good. The only thing that would make me go to the 13 potentially is the power steering. Eventually, as it gets a little older and it's starting to get to that 10-year mark, you might have some power steering leaks. You're going to want to keep an eye on, especially the rack and pinion is common, and the power steering return line. But otherwise, it's exactly the same. It's the same engine. It's a very good engine. Actually, the engine in that Avalon seems to have the least issues. Lesser of the water pump issues, lesser of the front cover leaks. It's a very nice car. A little bit driving dynamic wise is not there. I think 13 was much improved, but Comfort, it's much better than 13, honestly. It's a very comfortable car, very nice car. I used to have a 2008 Avalon. Love that thing, but it was a little all over the place for me, for my taste in driving. All right, where were we at? There we go. No. So, Michael Hilton, what's the best Tacoma to buy? Well, it depends. If you want absolute old school, 2011 to 2015, I'll put it. If you're not in Rust Belt, 2005 all the way, but seems like the early ones really didn't do well with Rust. Um, if you're looking at the newer ones, avoid 16, 17, not because they're bad, but these were the period where they had a few issues. And if the previous owner didn't take care of them, you're going to be stuck with them. 18 and up are much better. Mario Garcia, hello AMD. I have a 2021 Camry that just got an alignment, but now the steering wheel feels stiffer on one side. Steering wheel angle sensor. No, Mario, there is a calibration for this, but I would want this alignment to be rechecked. Make sure everything is good. Make sure it's not, all over the place where it's dog tracking or something. Doubt it. It's a new car unless it got an alignment because of an accident, but there is a calibration for the steering torque sensor, and that will need that, evens out the torque on both sides. That will need to be done. That's probably a dealer scan tool thing only, unless you have one. Then so, Justin, is the hybrid warranty for Lexus and Toyota 100,000 miles or 150? Depends. There is a point where they were 100, and I believe they went to 150,000. Don't quote me on that. I would like to double check that because the numbers are all over the place, and usually I double check each one of these when we're dealing with them. NICAD, I have a 2008 Highlander, 130,000 miles, has the original oil cooler lines and BBTI rear bank. Should I change them out? Honestly, I would have pushed my luck. I would change them, especially the oil cooler line more than the VVTI line. Though I would do that first. That's actually cheaper and not as involved as the back one. Oh, never mind. They were actually both simple on this. You don't have a power steering pump, so just change them out. Don't push your luck because one of them rupturing will destroy this actually not very high mile car, by the way. I would replace them and call it a day and be on the safe side. We're not talking a big expense here. Even if you pay a mechanic, it's not a big expense, but it's definitely worth it if you're going to keep this car longer. So, Joe Abati, I like your Mercedes S-Class. Well, thank you, sir. She has been, I'll say this, and this is funny. It's like when they say European cars have a soul, they literally do, just like a human being. The minute you give her praise, she starts becoming a spoiled brat and misbehaving. So, not her fault. I'll admit that. So it has developed an oil leak, and I honestly haven't really been driving it much to check it, but I notice it, and we're going to need to look into that. And on a recent trip, a tire popped, and this is very common with these. A tire popped, and I now have one mismatched tire on the car. That's why I don't want to drive until I got a new tire here, but I got to do that. The wheel's bent and damaged, so now I'm like, okay, we need tires. I want to change the wheels, but we're going into winter. Hopefully, my car will show up from Toyota, so I don't have to drive it in the winter. But center console broke. It's things are starting to, because I was just thinking like 2 or 3 weeks ago. I'm like, man, I've been driving this thing for a while. It's been really behaving well. So I didn't need to say that. Really need to take that back. She's been behaving very bad. But yeah, that's the life with an S class. That's why when you buy one, you got to be ready for that. Clark Stewart, 2017 Corolla CVT transmission, oil change. I've heard you need to do it at 30, 60, 100,000. Which one is it? Every 60,000 miles or 6 years will do it. That's just the recommendation. That'll keep the fluid clean and fresh, and you're not overdoing it or underdoing it. That's just a safe interval, in my opinion. Arthur Arthur Alvarado, thank you so much for your generosity, sir. So, Moto Racer. Just a suggestion for a video on Jackpoint. For example, lifting under the coil springs rather than push rods. Yes, that is a video that you guys are starting to see. I'm seeing these two. I'm going to add them to the list, and that probably push it to. Actually, I'll make this video because this is something heavily requested now. It's starting. It's Jose Solano. Great video about the drains. Thanks, brother. And Jose, are you going to come here and help us with these S-Class? So Jose is a Mercedes technician at a dealership that drives a 4Runner. Maybe I should be paying attention here. I love my S-Class, but it's saying it's a good car to buy is an understatement on the reliability side. It's that. That's just the way it is. Devin Jorge, Mark III, 2003 Lexus ES300. It chuckles in low gear. Should I idle the car higher to skip over the low gear? Honestly, the transmission on these, has it ever been serviced? Because that was something that a lot of people skipped on. How's the fluid? That kind of thing. Disconnect the battery overnight, see if it gets better. Um, Unfortunately, this is going to be diagnosis. You could idle the car higher, but it's not going to jump gears. You might need to manually shift it to get over it, to get over that low gear. Randy Shorts, not even though I do not own a Toyota, I'm a subscriber. Finding maintenance tips invaluable. Well, thank you very much, Randy, for watching and joining the live stream and subscribing. I appreciate it. H Dang 555. I took my 2014 Toyota Camry Hybrid to a dealership with vibration. They concluded that it was a torque converter, torque mount that needed replacement. It worked better for a while, but the vibrations have returned. Is this a torque converter shutter? Does it happen at, say, 40, 50 miles an hour, kind of a steady acceleration, and all of a sudden just the whole car starts vibrating? If you push get your foot down more, it'll start going faster. Um, that's one thing I would check because they're very common with these. So, Shatri Maharaj, can you replace nickel metal hydride battery with a lithium ion battery from Dr. Prius 2016 Fielder JDM spec? His videos is plug and play. Honestly, I am not very familiar with Dr. Prius. I will look into that. That's a few viewers have brought this to my attention. Really have no experience with it. The OEM world, you can't do that. There's no such kit from Toyota. This is all modification. And all I'm going to say, and I'm not going to um, endorse or not endorse, I don't know. I've never seen it in person. Even watching a video, I can make any magic happen in a video, but come to real life where people depend on this car. The problem is with these small modifications is a company does it brilliantly and they support their product. But if that company goes out of business and now you're stuck with their product, who's going to help you fix it if there's ever an issue? So that's the only thing I would advise. Make sure it's truly plug and play, where if something goes south, you can take it out, put the old stuff back, and you're back to OEM spec. That's the only thing. Brian Comacho, 2018 Camry, AC smells bad. What can I do to get rid of the smell? Cabin air filter has been changed. It's bad AC smell normal in these years. So it is not normal, but uh, a few things you can do. There's a kit that Toyota sells that cleans the AC. It basically washes the evaporator and the HVAC case from the inside. That's your best bet. You want to make sure you're putting a charcoal activated cabin filter. This is what actually this car should take. The other thing is always leave it as much as possible in fresh air whenever possible, because when you leave it to recirculate, all that moisture inside the HVAC case never gets ventilated, and that's how mildew and mold starts inside. Arthur Alvarado, I recently purchased a 2018 Camry SE with 16,000 miles. I'm really enjoying it, and will it last like my old 1988 Corolla with 320,000 miles? So Lord keep you as well, sir. So the newer cars, they're very good. I don't have a doubt that they will last 300,000 miles. However, you gotta keep the maintenance, not like the old cars. Look, the old cars are very forgiving. You could skimp over the maintenance a little bit and they'll be okay. The new ones, you can't do that. If you're going to want to keep it 200,000 to 300,000 miles, you really got to be on top of your maintenance, and you got to understand not only when to do the maintenance, but why you are doing it, and why you could decide to, okay, I'm going to do this earlier, I'm going to do this a little later. What's going on? What are we doing? You need to be more involved in the maintenance. These cars are very complicated these days, and neglecting them like that, like they're a 1988 Corolla, is not going to work. Things are going to start getting expensive toward the end, and that's the only difference, really. But if you take care of it properly and you're involved and invested in its maintenance and upkeep and care, it's gonna last, because that's just, they're still made with the same philosophy of the best of the best when it comes to reliability. Bruce Wayne, thank you so much, sir, for your generosity. I really appreciate it. So, Dylan, by the way, guys, Dylan is a viewer, and I see him all the time um, in the live stream, trying to help people. He's a person with a good heart, and I really appreciate you, Dylan. And Dylan's saying something very important today. Guys, please stop posting the same questions multiple times. Yes. Uh, this is, I believe, Mrs. Carcarnot is potentially joining the live stream. He's trying to clean it up, but last time it got a little much. So I ask everybody not to post your question multiple times. And actually, if you do and I see it, I'm not going to answer your question, because this is not nice. Let's be respectful to everybody who is taking time out of their day to watch, and we can share information and talk about cars. Ryan Morris, fifth generation Forerunner, coolant change. Do you just drain the radiator and maybe bottom hose, or do you have to drain the block on both sides? So if you can't drain the block on both sides, go for it. I believe the Forerunner might not only have one. This is kind of escaping my mind right now, but draining the radiator can drain the most. Draining the block, you can drain a little bit more. Toyota blocks, for some reason, when you drain them, there's still a lot of coolant inside. And how I know this, so drain the radiator, drain the block, pull the engine out of the car, flip it upside down. The amount of coolant that comes out is a lot. It's like, well, I thought I drained the block. You should be the normal expectation is when you drain the block, there's nothing left. You drain almost everything, maybe a few drops, maybe a little, but a lot is left in there. So it kind of becomes counterproductive. Just drain the radiator and call it a day. That's replacing enough of the coolant to keep things safe. The Dreamer. Sir, you're posting the question multiple times. So is Clark Stewart. So we're going to keep going. Antonio Escobar. I have a 2007 Tacoma with 5-speed manual. The owner manual states GL4 or GL5 are fine. Will I extend the life of my truck longer if I use GL4 over GL5? So some of these transmissions, and this has come up a lot. Some of these transmissions have materials inside of them that are safe with GL5. So you always want to follow your recommendation in your manual for the fluid type, because some of them, and somebody have posted a comment, this is just coming off the memory. There has never been a Tacoma with GL3 recommended. Well, the repair manual, I didn't really look at the owner's manual what it says, but the official repair manual says GL3 very clearly for that 2017 manual. GL4 is compatible, but always follow the recommendation in your owner's manual. Some of them will specifically say GL3 or GL4. Some of them will say you could use GL4, GL5. In that case, you can use either without worry, without having repercussions down the road. Motor Racer, thank you so much, sir, for your generosity. You guys are awesome. I really appreciate it. John Durrell, nice haircut. Yeah, man. It's thank you, Mrs. Carcarnot, for being awesome. She does so much for me. I really appreciate her. Man, it was time. It's like the best thing is I just got my haircut, I think yesterday morning or something like that. And then I came out, it's like 40 degrees here in Chicago. It's like, ooh, that I'm freezing. I can feel that haircut. Starting to get cold all of a sudden, man. It was like we went from 90s to 70s to 40s in like 3 days. It's like, oh God, okay, welcome to Chicago, I guess. If you don't like the weather, wait 5 minutes. Alexander Vaslov, what are your thoughts on the Toyota CHR facelift? Don't think I've ever heard you speak of them. I actually have a very high opinion of the CHR. They do have, they're very good cars reliability wise, but as far as design wise, they do have a few things that are very interesting and not necessarily that I like. I'll be honest. I do want to do a review on them. I should have done it already, but very hard to get them, man. I mean, you're usually, able to get a car from here for here. Nobody has cars, and it's really hard to get the cars to make the videos for them. But that is one that's definitely coming up soon. I hope if I can get one. Okay, let's see what happened here. Okay, Charles Hamilton, what's the deal with 2013 Camry V6 Pro White? I've been told that the paint could start peeling. It's not peeling, but it has begun fading. Are they responsible? I was sent a letter from Toyota. So, Charles, you're going to want to take it to a dealership, have them inspect it, have them look at it, because you the issues were paint peeling or fading, or I think changing color. Don't quote me on that. But you do want to take it to the dealership. They will verify that this is affected, which if you got a letter, it's likely affected. And they will advise from there, because honestly, we do not deal with the paint issue. I'm a mechanic. We don't do with the paint stuff, but I am aware of them. I see them all the time. And this has affected a specific range of cars that had the peril paint and the super white paint, I think. Take it to the dealership. That's the first thing, or at least call in, tell them, "Hey, is my car covered? Is what's the procedure here? What's going on?" Excuse me. PH, in your opinion, what is the most reliable Lexus model engine year of the 2006 to 2012 era? In my opinion, I think it's ES350 in those range, and even the ES330 in the beginning of this range. They are really good. I genuinely like the ES350s. They're really good. There's a lot of models in this range that are good and a lot that are terrible. Not, I don't want to say a lot that are terrible, some that are not good. But the video is filmed for what is the best used and what is the best and worst used Lexus models to buy. It followed the exact same theme as the Toyota one I did. It's filmed, it's ready to go. If everything happens according to plan and God's plan, you're going to see it either the end of this week or the following of or the beginning of the following week. That's the order of things. I want to take this with the introduction of Lexus specific content. Holy Adonis, is it worth adding extra insulation to the Camry 2013 for a quieter ride, or what else would you recommend for that? I have nice tires already. So, extra insulation works, but you need to, there are a few things that you need to know with insulation. In order to do the installation right, you need to strip the whole car, top, bottom, left, right, everything, and put the insulation. That adds so much weight, so your gas mileage will suffer. It does work, of course. Installation works very well, but it needs to be done right. I see people um, take the door panel, stick a few pieces, and call it a day. Well, that's going to make your door close nicer. Maybe when you tap on it, it sounds, but it absolutely does nothing for insulation from the road. Floor and ceiling is what makes the insulation, not really the doors. And then the other thing is the glass. There is always a limitation of the glass. You can't really do much for that, but uh, the insulation, sound insulation really works, but it also affects your gas mileage because now you're adding a lot of weight to the car. So be aware of that. So, Chuck, what is your thoughts on no transmission coolers on the 19, 20, 21 Tundras? So, folks, this has been heavily debated. Um, some say they're seeing really high temperatures. Toyota made that decision based on we don't need it for the towing capacity. If you tow, you should not see high temperatures. And some people have said, okay, I'm seeing 230, 240, but that's not high temperature. Really, until you get to 250 and above is when you start having issues from the temperature. But interesting thought. And honestly, you can actually add one, OEM one, almost without an issue. Is it a financial cost decision? Really, there hasn't been a clear answer from Toyota about this one, but it's a definitely interesting one. Volquara 7. I have a Toyota Highlander 2009. If I start in the morning and engage drive, it takes almost 30 minutes. 30 minutes before it starts moving forward, but reverse gears moves instantly and normally. Honestly, this one is likely mechanical, because the first thing I would do in this case is check your transmission fluid. When transmission fluid is cold, it shrinks, and if it's already low, it's going to be critically low where you have no hydraulic pressure to push things through. That's the first thing I would check. The second thing is you could have things that are stuck. Valves are sticking when things are cold. As the transmission warms up and everything expands, now everything's moving and directing fluid where it needs to go to make that engagement. Um, Check the fluid level and the condition. If it's low, top it off and see if it fixes it. If it's not low but it looks old, depending on the miles, and you might need to just replace it. There might be a low risk with that, but replace it and see if it improves with time. So winning lane, I got a 2001 Avalon with 320,000 miles. I'm using Castrol 530 conventional every 3,000 miles. Would it be bad to switch it to synthetic or blend? Honestly, you went all this miles without issues. I would just keep it with the regular gas, because with the regular, sorry, oil. Switching to synthetic or blend doesn't do much, honestly. That let's just say that. But synthetic oil helps. But if you made it to this miles and everything runs great at this schedule, you're gonna want to continue with that. Honestly, whatever you're doing, sometimes you get the car to really high miles and everything is running great, and you always ask, "What can I do to make it better?" What you've been doing for 300,000 miles. I commend you, sir. You have a car with high miles, and you didn't mention it, but I assume it runs really good. If you're concerned about synthetic oil, I would keep it the way it is. Use the same oil, same ways. Keep doing what you're doing, because cars don't randomly last 300,000 miles and still run good. Bill B. San Diego, 2004 Solara, 271,000 miles. Auto transmission started whining. Dealer said needs replaced with new or used. Can it be repaired? New car prices high. Keep it running. Well, honestly, that's a lot of miles. It's whining, but is it shifting fine? So most of these transmissions will start whining at some point or another. It's faint. Most people don't hear it. It gets louder with time. And it's usually the final drive that just starts to wear in, and then the pattern of the gears are not right anymore. And that's where the whine starts. I'm not concerned about the whine. If it's shifting fine, there's no issues. Keep going until the transmission completely dies, which might be a while, believe it or not. Could be next week. I can't really tell you, but I would just keep driving it the way it is. And if you do have to replace it, I understand the mileage is very high. Get a used transmission, because I don't. You're gonna have to have an exit plan. See, most people that drive the car get it to 300,000 miles, and this is an advice to all of you. You get a car to 400,000 miles, you got your money's worth multiple times already. There's gonna be a point where you're gonna have to have an exit plan, if you would, of the car. Say I'm gonna drive this car until the transmission goes, and then it's over. I'm not gonna doing something major with it. So you have a Solara, 271,000 miles. Let's say you take my advice and you decide, all right, let's just drive the transmission whiny. It's okay. Let's say you get to 320,000 miles and the transmission finally goes. Well, at that point, it doesn't make financial sense really to invest in it unless the rest of the car is pristine, which that you only know that. Then it would make sense to put a used transmission. I wouldn't put a new one because the price is too high, and you're trying to keep things making financial sense here. So Michael, I have a 2000. I have a Toyota Harrier Lexus RX 350, 2007. I noticed the two GRFE sweating oil where the timing cover meets the block on the both exhaust sides. Also noticed a small coolant leak from around that area. So That is the beginning of the leak of the front timing cover. If it's just sweating, I wouldn't worry about it, not even close. But the coolant around that area is the head gasket, and it starts leaking externally, something somewhat common with these. Um, I would honestly wait for the coolant leak to get really bad to do anything. You're just gonna have to pull the engine apart and replace the head gaskets, and that in the way will fix the front cover leak, which is now you just have a small sweating, not something I would be concerned about. I'll keep an eye on the coolant level, keep an eye on it, how it progresses, perhaps clean everything up and re-inspect it after a month or so of driving. If you see nothing, you're good. If you see a little bit forming, then keep an eye on it, and when it gets bad, then take care of it. KM Klein, always hear that you should not top off your fuel tank when you fill up. What about those pumps that have anti-fume technology that frequently shuts off mid-fill? How do you recommend filling up the tank? So you fill up your tank, and this is, let's define top off, because some people really take this to the next level. So let's specify. So you go to your gas station, you put the pump, click it, it's filling, it clicks. Personally, I just pull the thing, put it on, even if it's not full. You know what? Gas is not in short supply. Life is good. But if you have a doubt that it didn't fill it, click it again. If it's full, it's going to click right away, like within a second or two after you click it again. If that's the case, you're done. Take it out, be done. But if you click it and it keeps going, then that could have been a something from the pump malfunction or whatever. It keeps going, we're good. But the people topping off where it gets really bad, because some people, I see people, I fill up with gas, I see people what they do. They put the thing, clicks, they're gonna click it again, click it, click, okay, we're done. That's okay, because you're not pushing. But I see some people, the thing clicks, they start shaking the car. Then they click it, they pull the thing out and they're topping it off a little bit. Then it keeps clicking, and they keep going. Then they're done. They leave it. They shake the car and they try. Like, what are you doing to yourself and to your car? That is the extreme case of topping off, where you're intentionally and purposefully trying to fill it to the brim. Makes absolutely no sense. But if you're in doubt that, wait, is it done filling or is it a problem with the pump? Just click it again. If it keeps going, then you're good. If it doesn't, it clicks right off, then you're done. I wouldn't risk it. Even if you go in the car and it's just under full or three-quarter, it's okay. Because you know what? Gas is available. I understand everybody don't have time, but these are the little things that could, if you push it, can become big things. Not always, but why risk it? It's not worth it. Just then I'll leave that one up to you. Toyota Celica. Hello, my Toyota dealership changed the trunk stops on my 2005 Celica. It's the same brand, Tokaji. When the new ones fall, they are not strong enough. Already changed twice, 30 days. Cost cutting. It might not be cost cutting. It might be just old inventory, and that could be the case. Honestly, I would look for new inventory. Try to get aftermarkets that maybe they are fresh, but the old ones, that's just they might be just too old sitting on the shelf. That's a problem. Martin Quintana, how expensive is it to maintain a Corolla hybrid? Can I expect it to last like a normal one? I've heard you need to replace the battery around 80,000 miles. I'm assuming that's not the case at all. So with hybrids, you have more maintenance than a normal car. You have to change that extra coolant. You want to check the hybrid fan filter, which really doesn't cost anything if you do it yourself. But on the flip side, you have no belt, no alternator, no starter. The batteries, folks, they have gotten so good that I'll admit this. It's been a while. I recently done a hybrid battery in a Camry. I posted it on Instagram. I haven't done a hybrid battery in so long that it's starting to become like, that's interesting. There was a time where every other week there was a second generation Prius or even a third generation Prius. But the 2016 Prius, it's really coming up on my I like this thing list because they're really reliable. And all of these new hybrids, including the Corolla hybrid, stemmed from that 2016 Prius. I will give you a picture. 2010, I was with Toyota back then. 2010 when the new generation Prius came out, it took 2, 3 years. In 2012, 2013, we were already having a lot of issues with inverter recall, this, that, batteries, fans clogging all over the place. But the 2016 Prius, nothing, not a peep, at least that I see. So they really got things good in the latest generation hybrid where I'm not worried. And you can tell since they pushed their warranty longer. I have no doubt, and I think your Corolla will actually last a long time, a lot better than, say, the second generation Prius, which already can't, people have gotten 300,000 mile off on the original battery. So things are looking really good for hybrids. Uh, Now the same cycle will, EV cars will need to go through the same cycle. I have an opinion of EV cars, but I'll just keep it to myself since nobody asked. N6 Yun, how far can you go on a charge for a Sienna 2021? Well, the 2021 Sienna does not plug in to charge. It, generates as you go. You can't really charge it. So I hope that answers your question. Roadhog, I see you have a PayPal, 275,000 miles on my 2005 Avalon. Did water pump coils, oil line before they went bad, preventive maintenance? Yes, sir. That's how you see, and this is slowly becoming a video topic. How do you keep your car 300,000 miles? Because, folks, can I say the truth here? And nobody will bite my head off over it. People that keep their car 400,000 miles, and I have a personal customer that actually, I wish I took a picture last time, 700,000 miles on a 2016 Toyota Sienna. Original transmission and original engine. But when you hear that, you're like, wow, I'm going to go buy one right now. Wait a second. This guy spent so much on this van. He almost like have a personal mission that he wants to get 1,000,000 miles out of this thing. And he drives a lot. So there you go. But he fixes everything that it needs and doesn't, is not looking to save a penny. And financially, it absolutely makes no sense. But he likes the van and he wants to do this as a bucket list item. I had a car that lasted 1,000,000 miles, but head gasket is leaking. Do it. Transmission is leaking. Do it. Fluid maintenance, always on top of it, does everything ahead of time. Oil changes. He comes in every 4,000. This is someone that drives probably 100,000 miles a year. Every 4,000 miles on the dot, he brings it in for an oil change. So you see that there is a little bit more work involved in getting to 400,000 miles, 300,000 miles. You need to take care of your car and you need to be on top of it, understanding what's what and where are we at with the maintenance. Showstopper 108, looking fresh with the new haircut, sharper than a number 2 pencil. Thanks, man. I appreciate it. I really appreciate it and your generosity. All right, folks. So I'll take a few more questions. I actually got to wrap this up earlier because I gotta go finish the Lexus content for you all. And next week, before we get to a few questions, I'll tell you this. Next live streams on Saturday. It's gonna be on Saturday, but it might change the time. We might go either it's gonna stay with 7 or I might go 8 p.m. Central Time. I'll keep you guys posted when I put the thing, and you'll see it, so you can set a reminder. These are the only 2 weeks that we have a little bit of a jumpy schedule. After that should be business as usual. Vesia 2008 Lexus IS 250. Can I program TPMS with text streams or requires TPMS programming tool? You can always program TPMS sensors with text stream. You do not need the TPMS programming tool. It does make it a lot easier, but you can always program sensors with text stream. All right. Let's take a few more questions and call it a day. James, how you doing, man? Good to see you. Have you worked on the Toyota hydrogen fuel cell cars yet? Have you received training, thoughts on hydrogen power autos? So hydrogen cars are only sold in California, I believe. I am not trained to work on them, on the Mirai. I do have a lot of technical information on them through just reading through it and reading on how they're made. I think it is the future, but Tesla has a bigger mouth, so that's where everybody thinks the future is. The future is whoever can come up with this. See, people don't like change. Whoever can come up with a solution that keeps things the same, where you go to a gas station or a station of some kind, do something, and then 5 minutes later you're on your way. That's what people want, and that's what's going to keep things going. That's going to be the future. If they can figure that out, where you can go to a station, do something for 5 minutes, and you're on your way, and we are saving the environment at the same time, that's going to be the winner. And that's exactly what hydrogen cars are. But you don't have the stations everywhere. You don't have the infrastructure. And this infrastructure will take, hopefully, we'll see it before you and I kick the bucket, because I don't know. There's just too much greed in this world for them to really care and not turn it into a business profit thing. But I think that's the future. Toyota's talking about their solid state battery and how that could really charge rapidly. That'll work, because honestly, that's everybody's like, um, we want the EV, we hate gasoline engines. Gasoline engines brought all of us almost as babies from the hospital. So let's not turn our backs on the gasoline engine too quick. That's the truth. That's where we're driving today. Unless you drive an electric car, that's a different story. But electric cars are not perfect, and they have a lot of issues. And most people are like, "Oh, they have no maintenance. I don't have this." You hold that thought, because very recently the first Tesla model went out of warranty. 2013, I think, was the first Model S. They are now going out of warranty. So you wait until these old, unproven cars from a manufacturer that has a notorious history of horrible build quality, other than their EV technology. We'll see. It's just too early. Don't judge a car technology in 10 years. Give it more time. Let it prove itself first before you decide to cancel everything else and go with it. That's all I'm going to say. David and Elizabeth, thank you so much for your generous contribution to the channel. I really appreciate it. Arojan, sorry, I'm just going to read your question. I apologize. Is there finally an update for 2019 RAV4 to have Android Auto, since Euro received the upgrade, or never going to happen for us? Unfortunately, it's still quiet yet. And I heard about that Europe thing. It's like, are you serious right now? We do need that update, man. But so far, nothing. And I'll keep a note here. And actually, many have asked about this earlier. If there is a update, I will let you guys know, because so many viewers have asked me about this, and I understand the frustration. Luckily, I use an Apple product, so we have Apple CarPlay, but I can understand if we had the opposite. This would be not good. I'll keep you updated if I hear anything. Bill B. San Diego, thank you so much, sir, for your generosity. I really appreciate it. Well, let's take 2 more questions and we'll call it a day. I'm just gonna go. I'm going to go around and take random questions here. Let's see. This is a good one. When is the best used hybrids to buy videos coming out? So you're going to see the Lexus one first. We're going to pass through the Lexus period, where for a little bit of time you'll feel like there's too much Lexus. And then I'm going to do that hybrid one. And I'm actually working on some videos that will roll right around the beginning of the year. Kind of going back to some of my viewers have asked me, hey, did you abandon hybrids altogether? No, but I feel like if there's something worthwhile, I will put out, not just put out something random just to say it's a hybrid video. So that's definitely coming up, because their hybrids have come a long way. And maybe even if you guys want a series on the hybrid generations and how they progressed and coming into the current generation, which I think, I mean, I said this every time, but this is really a good generation right now. Mahmoud Amir. So I bought a 2009 4Runner that had a blown driver and passenger airbag. My SRS module was pulled out, sent out to reset the crash data. Module isn't communicating. If I buy a new module, is it plug and play? Yes, for that year, it is plug and play. Should be plug and play, as long as all your wiring is good and nothing got damaged, which shouldn't, unless it was like pinched or whatever the case may be with the accident. But they are plug and play for this model. All right, folks, I'll take the last question, which, if you have been watching my live stream for a long time, you know, the last is always first. So, Jack W, what is the process for doing a jump start on a 21 RAV4 hybrid? There are 2 points under the hood, and actually I have a video where I demonstrated this. Never do this to your Toyota hybrid, the 2021 edition. At the end, I actually demonstrated how to do this, and applies 100% to your RAV4. There are a jump point, there's a positive point in your front fuse block under the hood, and then there's a point on the engine. There's like a little bracket that you can put your negative on, and that's how you jump it. You do not need to go to the battery in the back, and kind of defeats the purpose because the battery is in the back. If your battery is dead, how are you going to open the lift gate, which is operated electronically? So you're going to have to go through these jump points. All right, folks. So I kind of gave you the runaround of what's coming up here. Shane Sundet, I haven't seen you comment in a while, man. I hope you're doing well. Guys, we have a few Lexus videos coming up. I'm actually going to end the live stream, go eat, and then start filming because I want to. I have to return this car that they very generous people gave it to me. So we got to finish this and get you guys some Lexus content going. I hope you like it, and following it, I'll try to make also Scion. I do not forget about Scion. Of course, Toyota doesn't have, this is, even though it's Lexus and it's its own thing, they're all the same. They use really the exact same stuff. So you'll see a lot of Lexus content very shortly here, guys. I hope you like the live stream, and next week I'll keep you updated in the time, but it's going to be a Saturday, not a Sunday. We'll kind of try to go back to our normal schedule. Guys, thank you so much for watching the live stream. I really appreciate it. And until the next live stream, may the Lord bless you and keep you, and you guys have yourself a wonderful day.